morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to talk about weird stuff that's going on with the Pokémon TCG, and it's again these illustration rares, but today we're going to be looking mostly at Scarlet and Violet Base and Paldea Evolved. Two sets which, well, to put it bluntly, have just not been that sought after. The cards in those sets have not been particularly expensive. They've not been sets that everybody has been desperately trying to pick up because if we manage to get these and there's going to be these really expensive cards and all of that. No! That has not been where we are. It might now be where we are. And this really came to me, and I know I'm not the only one that spotted this, but the Drowzee from Scarlet and Violet Base. What is going on with the Drowzee from Scarlet and Violet Base? It's weird. It is absolutely bizarre. As I record this video right now, it is a $65 card, and it is the number one card in the entire set. But I think if we look at the 3-month graph, that kind of tells you what you need to know. Shout out to TCG Player, of course, as always, for providing the information. Because what we've got here is, for a long time, it was $10. And $10 for a random illustration rare. They're like 1 in 12 packs, 3 per box. You're like, all right, you know what? Yeah. I can kind of get behind that. $10 for a random illustration rare from a slightly older set at this point. Sounds about right. And now, it's a $65 card. It's actually come down from an $80 card. You know, it was an $80 card last week. Good news is it's dropped down to only $65, but that's truly bizarre. Like, the second biggest card in the set is the Gardevoir, which is a $50 card. What is going on? Like, Miriam, what was supposed to be the biggest card in the set, is a $30 card. Miraidon is a $25 card, and Koraidon's a $20 card. These are all significantly lower than this random illustration rare. And I know they're 1 in 12 packs and all that, but the special illustration rares have very low pull rates. So they should generally be a little bit more expensive, but right now it's an illustration rare world. And honestly, it's only the Gardevoir that's breaking up the illustration rares. Like some of the other ridiculous special illustration rares, of which I am a massive fan, are just nowhere to be seen. Like the Great Tusky X is $10. That's behind so many of the illustration rares. Not complaining. If I want to go and get another version of it, I totally can, because it's incredibly cheap. Penny is a $7 card right now. Iron Treads is a $5 card right now. These are incredibly cheap, and yet some of these random illustration rares are just jumping up massively higher, and I don't really see why. Yes, you can play the whole low pull rates card, but you can do that for the special illustration rares, which are harder to pull. And you can say there's a bunch of illustration rares in the set, and you're absolutely right, there are. But there's still 10 special illustration rares in there as well. These illustration rares are jumping up, frankly, a lot more than they should be. Like, if we have a look at Scarlet and Violet right now, the number 1 card, like I said, is your Drowzee. Your number 2 card is your Gardevoir. But your number 3 card there is Slowpoke. And your number 4 card is Ralts. And your number 5 card is Curlier. And Ralts and Curlier I kind of get because Gardevoir is very playable and all of that. But Slowpoke? Like, again, if we have a look at the 3-month graph, this was a $10 card for the longest time. It's now a $40 card. And the reason I'm showing you these graphs is because the point I'm making here is the illustration rares are jumping up too fast. They shouldn't be this high. And one of the common counter arguments to this is going to be, well, come on, Wassy, pull rates are low. But so are they for the special illustration rares. But the best counter argument is, if this was going to be the case, it would always be the case. We wouldn't have seen a gigantic jump in the last few weeks. You know, since the middle of February, that's like 2 weeks ago, it's doubled in price. That's ridiculous. Now, these might be short-term spikes. These might be short-term, it's jumping up for now because everyone's getting overly excited and they settle back down in the next couple of weeks. That is absolutely possible. But for right now, things are getting dumb. Take a look at the Ralts. And again, now this one was slightly more expensive because it's Ralts. But let's take a look at the 6-month graph for this one, because this one's actually been going up for a little bit longer. It's a $15 card 6 months ago. Now it's a $35 card. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. They're just jumping up massively. There's not every illustration rare. There are some still very cheap ones around. But this is happening more and more where these random illustration rares are just absolutely being pumped up, and it's happened in the last few weeks. And again, the top 5 having 1 special illustration rare and 4 regular illustration rares, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. The idea that the random Slowpoke is nearly double the price of Miraidon. You know what's more expensive than Miraidon right now? Riolu. Riolu right now on TCG Player is a more expensive card than the incredibly playable Miraidon. That's weird. That cannot be right. And again, if we have a look at the graph here, 3 months ago, it's sitting there as a $10 card. Look at that jump for the Riolu. They're just being spiked up right now by people buying them out. Might be a long-term thing where this happens more and more and it happens to more illustration rares. It might be a short-term thing where people are getting excited and this is going to go away soon. But right now, it doesn't really make sense that Riolu should be more expensive than Miraidon when Miraidon's harder to pull and more playable. There we go. But it's happening in Paldea Evolved as well. It's happening in both sets. Now look, the Magikarp has always been a dumb card. You know, if we look at the year graph, even a year ago it was $70. Now, it's since got up to $250 and gotten truly ridiculous, but this has turned into just an iconic legendary card at this point, which means fewer of them are being sold, more people want them, and that really is pumping up the price massively. No illustration rare should be up this high. It's absolutely absurd. And again, if it really should be this high, well, why is it not this high in Japan? And don't get me wrong, it's the #1 illustration rare in Japan, but it's not this high, or comparatively this high even. So it's still higher than it should be, but this one kind of makes sense a little bit because it is super high everywhere. It's just a little bit too high over here. And again, the #2 card in the set is a special illustration rare. It's an Iono. But if we go through the rest of the list, #3 is Raichu, #4 is Baxcalibur, #5 is Tyranitar, #6 is Arctomax, #7 is Meryl. 6 of the top 7 cards for value in the set are regular illustration rares. And then #8 is Chi-Yu. Honestly, it's ridiculous that we have to get down to like the #11 card in the set to get to Fuecoco, which is clearly the best illustration rare in the set. And frankly, right now, I am thanking my lucky stars that I have my both Japanese and English versions of this card because it's phenomenal. I love this card. It's absolutely stunning. And if I didn't already have it, going and trying to pick it up at this point would frankly be a little bit annoying. But luckily, I did get my copy of this a while ago, so we're all right, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be okay. But so many of these cards are jumping up in a way which really just doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. There's nothing in these cards that should be this high. And like some of them are very popular, you know, Raichu's a popular Pokemon, Tyranitar's a popular Pokemon. But, you know, have a look at the graph for Meryl here. And I know Meryl's quite popular, but 6 months ago it's a $10 card, now it's a $40 card. Why is Meryl a $40 card right now? The artwork's lovely and Meryl's quite popular, but you could say that about so many of these cards. You could say that about a bunch of the special illustration rares. It is a weird thing that's happening recently, and it is just happening with the illustration rares. Now, I'm sure you can find a couple random special illustration rares that are also doing this, but I mean, in terms of an overall trend, this is just for the illustration rares and it is happening. And if we have a little bit of a look at the most recent sales, we see there's a couple Japanese there that are peppered in as a little bit cheaper, but these are actually selling. You know, the ones that are sold are $36, $54, 37, 37, 36, 36, and then a 30. Like, it's absurd. I don't know why this card is suddenly so high. And Paldea Evolved and Scarlet and Violet base as sets, they're sold out on the Pokemon Center right now, but there's a bunch of places in the UK where you can pick them up for a half-decent price. There are absolutely products still out there, and it is truly bizarre to me as to why this has happened. But we are seeing a real trend over the past few months where people are bigging up these illustration rares, frankly, a little bit higher than maybe they should be. But I've told you what you need to know now, ladies and gentlemen, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me if you've noticed any other illustration rares jumping up in price. Tell me which ones you've picked up. Tell me if there's any you wanted to pick up, but they've just gotten a little bit expensive. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. And of course, get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Nick Gleason, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.